Hi, it's Bree here. I'm busy recording new stories for season 6 of Into the Story, which is coming to you this August 2024. In the meantime, I want to bring you some of my favorite stories from the catalog with new learning materials and other updates. I hope that you enjoy this episode that originally came out in February 2021. This is Into the Story, the podcast where you learn English with true stories from all over the world. Stories that connect us and inspire you to get where you want to go. Hello, it's your host, Bree. I have always been just fascinated by people who decide to do extreme physical challenges. Whether you're an active person or not, most of us know that 30 minutes of movement every day is good for us. It helps us feel good, maybe look in shape, and it also actually gives us more energy and then helps us feel more relaxed at the end of the day. However, some people go one step further, or many steps further, and they do marathons, triathlons, and as we'll hear in this episode, ultra marathons. Today, we are going into the story of Tom Zachariassen. Tom is from Melbourne, Australia, and on this episode, he tells us about running a 60-kilometer ultra marathon.
I tell people, like, when I do long distance running, and they think of me like, how do you run all these kilometers and enjoy it and continue to do it? It's definitely not for everyone.
Today, Tom takes us to race day. After many months of training, he ends up facing a few unexpected challenges. If you love Into the Story, then please share it with a friend. That is the best way to support the podcast. And thanks. Okay, before we get to today's story, we're going to look at 5 words that Tom uses. The first one is to push yourself to do something. So if someone pushes themselves to do something, it means that they make a really big effort to do something that is difficult or challenging. For example, this is true, need to push myself to wake up early every morning. Or she pushes herself to work harder every day. To push yourself to do something. Next, to clock or to clock up. So this means to reach or gain a certain number or amount of something over time. So let's look at a couple of examples. He clocked or clocked up 70 kilometers last week as part of his training for the ultramarathon. Or she has clocked or clocked up 200 hours of volunteer work this year. To clock or clock up. Next, to take a toll. So if something takes a toll, it has a bad or serious effect on someone or something over time. So look at these examples. Working long hours takes a toll on our health, or hard training takes a toll on your body. To take a toll. Next, a gut feeling. So a gut feeling is that strong feeling or intuition that we have about something without a clear reason. For example, she had a gut feeling that something was wrong, or he trusted his gut feeling during the race. So when you have a gut feeling, you can also say, I'm going to go with my gut. It means that you're going to go with your intuition. To have a gut feeling. And finally, a relief. So a relief is feeling better and less worried after being stressed or anxious. For example, when the storm passed, they felt a great relief. Or it was such a relief when I found my keys after I thought I had lost them. A relief. For the extended vocabulary list, the transcript, and a listening comprehension quiz, just go to our website, intothestorypodcast.com. Okay, let's get into the story.
I am Thomas Zachariassen. I am living in Stockholm, Sweden at the moment, and I'm originally from Melbourne, Australia. Running is it's definitely not for everyone. I tell people, like, when I do long distance running, and they think of me like, God, I couldn't think of anything more boring to do. I'm not a runner. How do you run all these kilometers and enjoy it and continue to do it? I do run just to get my mind off things, separate myself from technology, and yeah, just to unclog my mind and thoughts.
After having run other marathons like the Great Ocean Road Marathon on the southeastern coast of Australia, Tom decides that he wants to sign himself up for a 60-kilometer ultramarathon.
The run is something that I push myself to do. It's a run that's in Wilson's Promontory. It's a nature reserve, one of the largest and I think most beautiful preserved forests in Victoria. It's absolutely massive. And I thought, what better way to see it than to do an ultra marathon? So an ultra marathon is anything that's longer than a marathon. It could be 60 Ks, 80 Ks, 100. A lot of people said, kind of reacted like, oh, okay, here we go. Another run that what Tom wants to do. But it was also because I wanted to raise funds for breast cancer. And my mother was a sufferer of breast cancer. So that's one way I wanted to give back to her. I think it was like 3 months out that I started the training for this.
To train for the ultra marathon, Tom had to run a lot during his lunch hour at work, getting up early in the morning.
You would have to probably clock about 75 to 80 kilometers. And you don't actually run, 60 kilometers in the training. So you're only building up your legs to be able to, run that length on the day. It is such a balance with life as well. There's running to keep the legs ticking, to clock your kilometers, really takes its toll with, work, friends, your social life. You just have to think of the bigger picture.
Finally, after months of training, the day is here. Tom wakes up super early to get to the race on time. As he's driving to Wilson's Promontory National Park, he discovers that the weather conditions are terrible.
The race starts at 5:30, so we had to get up at 4:30. Of course, it was just like, thunderstorms and raining in the morning. It had to happen, right? At one point when we were driving down to the starting line, we actually had to stop because there was so much rain. We couldn't actually see out the windscreen. We parked, I got out of the car, and it just ran off into the darkness because there's no lights. It's just a few cars. It's a guy on his clipboard with all these people geared up with their backpacks and their headsets with torches, and then you're just off. And you're just running into the darkness, not knowing where to go. Oh, God, the hill at the beginning. That was an incline that just kept going and going and going. I mean, that was nerves, thinking like, what the hell did I get myself into? This is gonna. I'm already battling in the first 5 kilometers, and I haven't reached the top of the hill. I didn't do the right training for this.
At this point, early in the race, Tom begins to have a lot of emotions about how unprepared he is.
The important thing with running is you need a rhythm. You need to be able to feel comfortable with your heart rate. Your breathing patterns need to be consistent. And you can't, and if you break that pattern, your body just can't cope. But the fact that the terrain was just never flat, you're running through, and you're running on sand, gravel, mud. At one point, I was running through, running over, through a river. Your body just, you just can't pick up a rhythm. It was 7 hours of running. So during that whole process, I mean, you're going through different mood swings. At the time, at one point after being so nervous and being thrown away by this weather in the first 3 kilometers, there was parts where I was just like thought, I felt like the Mowgli, like the Jungle Boy, just like running freely and loving life. Then you're going through emotions where like you think you're lost. I didn't have a map on me. I didn't actually use technology at all during the race. I saw people who had maps and laminated them so you could last the whole run. So I just went off logic of running these paths, following other people as well, which builds a great connection with people. So when you see someone running off in the distance or someone catches up with you, it's quite special because you're not alone. There was times where I was running for felt like 10 kilometers just by myself in this area I've never run before. But when you have people running with you, or when you come across someone, you're like, okay, that's my safeguard. I've got someone that is doing this race as well, and I'll use him to get my motivation to get me through this race.
At some point in the middle of the race, Tom realizes that he's no longer with other runners. In fact, he's completely alone. And then he discovers that he's not on the correct trail. Tom is lost.
I took a wrong turn, and instead of running along the coast, I went more inland. I realized when I hadn't seen anyone for like a good 40 minutes, I was just thinking to myself, what have I done? This doesn't feel like I should be seeing water at one point here, but I haven't.
At this point in the story, without GPS or a map, Tom uses his gut feeling to try to find his way to the correct path.
Okay, just think logically. Where is the sun? Where is the sun? Just you're running towards the east of the island if you're facing a certain direction. So I just need to go off, logic really, and just go with my gut feeling to think, okay, this is the way back. They talk to you about like if you don't make it to the finish line, you need to pack these aluminium bags so you can keep warm, or something to cover you so you can keep warm during the night while the rescue team comes to get you. So there's things that play on your mind the whole time. Lucky enough, I did do a trial run, and I did come across that same path that I ran. It was like I was thanking God at that point.
When he finally gets on the right path after a 5-kilometer detour without another runner in sight, muscles aching and exhausted, he runs the final 15 kilometers of the race all alone.
By the end of it, it's quite funny actually. My friends are waiting like really patiently. I came hours after my expected finishing time, and they're just waiting and waiting and waiting. And the finish line, I actually came from the back. I didn't actually finish the proper way, and I literally walked up to my friends who had been facing, and they're just all looking curiously like, where the hell is Tom? Like, when is he going to finish this race? And I just walked up and I said, no, literally being a meter away, I just said, oh, hey guys. And they're like, what the, they just got shocked. So they cheered and they were like, aren't you meant to be coming that way? And they were like, and I said, I got lost along the way. Thanks for hanging around. It was a massive relief, and I think seeing them at the finish line, they just really motivated me. I was feeling pretty amazing, being able to see Wilson's Prom and that type of beauty, in that way. I was really appreciative in that sense. Yeah, it's something that will always be a part of me running, and I always appreciate, and I will keep it up. You do go through the pain, but the experience, being that close to, being through that much pain, you do appreciate life that much more.
Tom said that after the race, his leg muscles hurt so much that he struggled to even walk down the stairs. I don't know about you, but I find the mindset behind runners just fascinating. Now, of course, fitness and achievement are big motivators, but training for and then actually doing an event like Tom's Ultramarathon can help us understand ourselves better. It shows us our limits and our strengths. It's much like working towards other goals in life. These days, Tom lives in Stockholm, Sweden, where he works as an architect, focusing on sustainability. And of course, he continues running. Okay, folks, if you're loving this podcast, then you'll definitely enjoy my newsletter too. Every few weeks, I'll send you a quick email with practical tips and fascinating topics from the world of psychology and ways to make your life better. Just head over to intothestorypodcast.com and click subscribe. It's completely free. Okay, that's all for today. Until the next episode, I hope that you have a good time, or at least a good story to tell. I hope you enjoyed this story, and I'm looking forward to bringing you 10 new stories in Season 6 this summer 2024. In the meantime, I want to know more about you. At the bottom of the show notes, you have a link to fill out a 3 to 5 minute survey. And as a thank you, you'll be entered to win a 30-minute speaking coaching session with me. Thank you for your support.